Hi you guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so freaking excited to be on this platform, to hit the record button and start posting some videos. But before I do that, I thought I would introduce myself and give you guys some insight on what my channel is going to be about. My name is Arielle. I'm 31 years old. I'm married to my amazing husband, Konnor, and we just had our first baby boy. His name is Brooks, and he just turned 2 months old. Now I wanted to start this YouTube channel and pass along some of the tips and tricks that I am learning as a first-time parent to you in hopes that it will help you navigate your journey through parenthood just a little bit easier. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. So for my first video, I wanted to sit here and talk to all you first-time mamas who have a breech baby, who are considering an ECV and or just decided to schedule a C-section. So when I went in for my 35-week appointment, my doctor did an ultrasound and found out that my baby boy was breech. At that time, she gave me two options. She told me I could either do an ECV or just go ahead and schedule a C-section. They normally check to see how much fluid is around the baby because sometimes if there's not enough fluid, an ECV is not even an option. They'll just schedule you a C-section. For me, I had quite a bit of fluid and she thought that an ECV would potentially have a good outcome. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what an ECV is, it stands for external cephalic version, and it essentially is a procedure where they try to move the baby and turn it to be head down. It sounds like a very easy procedure, but let me give you my experience. So because my doctor told me I was a good candidate for the ECV and that she thought the chances of the baby being able to be turned so that I could have a vaginal birth were high, I decided to schedule that appointment. Once I got home, I looked into ECV a little bit more just so that I could prepare myself for what was going to happen. And I watched a few YouTube videos and it definitely looked like a procedure that was going to be uncomfortable, but that it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. So on the day of my appointment, I was in this mindset of it was going to be something that was easy and that I would just be in my hospital room and it wouldn't be a big deal. After I got all checked in, they hooked me up to some IVs and put some fluids in me, and I was just waiting for the doctor at that point. And when the doctor came in, she proceeded to tell me that I would be getting a spinal. My husband and I were definitely thrown off guard. We kind of looked at each other and we were just like, oh, I mean, okay. Like, it was just something that we didn't think was going to be this ordeal where I was going to go into an operating room and get a spinal, but that's how it was. So they took me back into the operating room. They got me prepped. They gave me a spinal, which your husband and your significant other is not allowed to come back in the operating room with you during the time of the spinal because people have passed out in the past and they have just decided to keep them in a separate room, and then they'll bring them back once they're ready to do the procedure. Now, I was definitely expecting a spinal to hurt extremely bad. I feel like you hear all these horror stories about epidurals and spinals being like the worst part. And I have to tell you guys, it wasn't. Now, this was just my personal experience, but it literally just feels like a bee sting and then a tiny bit of pressure, and then after that you can't feel anything. Like you pretty much go numb from like your upper rib cage all the way down to your feet, and it was a much more pleasant experience than I had envisioned in my mind. So just go into it with an open mind and don't be so fearful of the spinal. The spinal actually doesn't take very long too, so keep that in mind. It's fairly quick. So once the spinal is over, then they will lay you down on the operating table and they'll have you put both your arms out like this. make sure that you're doing okay, and then at that point they'll have your significant other come in to be with you. They do make them stay up by your head, but you are able to watch the whole thing if you want to. I personally was staring straight up and my husband was watching, but they don't put a sheet up or anything like that. So once they're ready to do the procedure, there will be 2 doctors, one on each side of your stomach. And what they do is they put their hands on your stomach and find where the baby is positioned. And once they have a good grip on its butt and its head, then they start pushing the baby and trying to get it to turn so that it is head down. Pre-warning, it is a lot of pressure. It literally feels like a bunch of people are sitting on your stomach and like twisting and turning. It's not comfortable. I'll tell you beforehand too that they're only going to make 3 attempts to turn the baby. If they can't get the baby turned within those 3 attempts, then the ECV is over and you'll just have to schedule for a C-section. Before they're about to make their first attempt to turn the baby, they will let you know that the heartbeat could dip down. And they explain it essentially as being on a roller coaster and you are going up, 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 up. And then once you hit that peak and you drop, you kind of like gasp for air. And that's essentially what the baby is feeling. It's actually like very stressful on the baby. I wish I would have known that going into it, but definitely keep that in mind. It is a lot of stress on the baby. It's a lot of pressure on the baby and on you. I mean, you're sore for days after the procedure is done, but just keep that in mind because that's something that I wish I would have known. Once I started the first attempt to turn the baby, his heart rate did take a very large dip and it was very scary. Me and my husband were just kind of looking at each other and I was looking at the nurses and doctors and no one was talking and everyone was just very still. And then eventually it started getting faster and faster and faster. And at that point they looked at me and asked if I wanted them to continue on another 2 tries. And it's just like a really awkward situation to be in because you're already there. You've already gone through the spinal and for me at least, like, I guess I just wasn't really mentally prepared for any of this to go on. So I was kind of just like in a weird mindset and I wish I wouldn't have had them continue, is what I'm trying to say. But I did, and I asked them to keep trying with the other 2 attempts once they reassured me that the baby is fine and that was, a normal thing for the heart rate to drop. So they continued on with the procedure and attempted 2 more tries, and neither one of them worked. So after the 3rd try, they looked at me and they said, we're really sorry. Like, we can't get him to turn. He's just being very, very stubborn. At this point, it's looking like a C-section. So at that point, I was pretty much done. I was so fine with a C-section. I really wanted to have a vaginal birth, but sometimes it just doesn't play out the way you think it's going to. So I went ahead and scheduled the C-section. So my advice to any of you first-time mamas out there with a breech baby who are considering the ECV is to just really do your research, ask your doctor in-depth questions, really try to get a good idea and a good grasp on how it's going to play out for you and so that you can be in a good mindset, but also going into it knowing that it could not work. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. And if it works, then that's great. But I just wanted to share with you guys my experience with the ECV and how it went for me. Hopefully it gives you guys more of an idea of what could happen if it doesn't go right so that you can ask your doctors the appropriate questions. Now, because the ECV didn't work, I got scheduled a C-section. So I had a very wonderful C-section experience, and I also wanted to share that with you guys as well, because I was definitely not planning for a C-section. I honestly didn't even have it in the back of my mind. So I was very thrown off guard when all of a sudden I had a week to heal from the ECV, and then all of a sudden I was having this C-section and having our baby. So I feel like there's always these like horror stories or at least thoughts in your mind of how a C-section is gonna go. I know for me, like I was terrified about being cut open and like what I would feel, how the recovery would be. And I have to say, it was so much better than what I thought. So essentially, you will check into the hospital to get you hooked up, and they will put about 2 bags of fluid in you before the procedure. Again, they'll walk you back into the operating room. Your significant other is not allowed back there with you at this time. They're going to give you the spinal, lay you down on the operating table, and just get you all settled and prepped for the C-section, and then they'll bring your significant other back with you. Now, just a few things to keep in mind. You're normally not allowed to film anything when it comes to a C-section. I mean, definitely ask your hospital, but I know that was our hospital's rule. So just keep that in mind. But the nurses and doctors are really great about taking photos for you so that you can have photos of you and your significant other with the baby. That was something that was really, really nice, is that I was afraid that because my husband would be taking all the photos that we wouldn't have any together, but they were so wonderful about, once the baby was born, grabbing the camera and snapping a bunch of memories for you. Now, I'm sure every hospital is different, but I have to say my hospital was really great about making the environment very warm and welcoming, even though you're in like a freezing cold operating room. I had one nurse who had Enya playing on in the background. She was asking me if the music was okay, if I wanted a warm blanket. I mean, they really did try to make it feel as warm and welcoming as possible, and I really appreciated that, because it's not fun when in your mind you're thinking all these, terrible thoughts, and you go back into a cold operating room and it's just not the way you envisioned it. So it was really nice that they took the time to make sure it was more comfortable for me. I also really appreciated the fact that they gave me some options on how I wanted the C-section to go. It was really nice that they gave me the option of having a sheet with a window in case we wanted to watch, or my husband wanted to watch, or if we just wanted a straight sheet up and down where we couldn't see anything that was going on. If I wanted skin to skin. I mean, they really walk you through it and kind of customize it to how you want it to go. And that is going to say that everything goes as planned and that the baby is healthy and that you are healthy. In my circumstance, everything went really well. So we told them, like, yes, we would love to have a sheet with a window so that my husband could watch and he could take photos of the baby being pulled out. And that was something that I could see, later on, because as the girl, you're laying on the table, and even though it's a clear window, you can't see what's going on because you're laying flat and the window kind of starts up higher. So the window is really just for your significant other to watch and take photos, but then when they pull the baby out, they will hold the baby up to the clear window so that you can see the baby. So that is something that I really wanted, and I'm glad that we did. The next thing that they asked me was if I wanted skin to skin, if the baby was okay, and they were able to do that for me. And I, of course, said yes. I mean, that's just a moment that I really was looking forward to with a vaginal birth, and in my mind was just thinking that that moment was going to be taken away from me. So I was really appreciative that they gave me that option to do that. So once they go through all of the logistics and they have an idea of how you would like the procedure to go, be in the best case scenario, then they start the procedure. Now I have to say, I was very shocked at how quick the procedure was. I want to say from start to finish, it was like 45 minutes. And the first whole half of that was them just getting me prepped with the spinal, laying me down on the table. And then there's like 12 doctors, it feels like. There were so many. And they go through this checklist out loud, which is actually really nice. It makes you feel like they got it together, like they know what they're doing, and it makes you feel so much better about what's about to happen. But they do that, they go through it. You have a doctor just for you, and then there's a doctor just for the baby. So just a heads up, that was actually something that was really nice to know, is like if I was started to feel sick or feeling a certain way, that I had one doctor that was just dedicated to me, and that there would be another doctor dedicated just to my baby, so that if something was going on with me, it would be taken care of. But once the baby was out, that the baby was being taken care of as well. So once that is finished and the doctors are done going through, who they are, if they have all their utensils, then they look at you and they ask you if you're ready to have your baby. And it is the most, I can't even describe the feeling. You're feeling so many emotions as a first-time parent. You have no idea what to expect. It feels so surreal. And once you give them the go, it's on. They tell you, okay, we're about to make the incision. They make the incision, and it probably only took them 10 minutes max to get the baby out. It was just so fast. Seriously, medical stuff blows my mind. It was insane. The doctor will kind of tell you as they're doing things. I know my doctor was like, okay, we have the legs and the butt is out, now the back. I mean, they just kind of walk you through it. So mentally you're laying down there and you're just thinking oh my gosh, they're actually pulling a human being out of me right now. It is crazy. And mind you, you cannot feel a thing. I really want to reassure any first-time mom who's about to have a C-section is you really don't feel anything. And honestly, even when they tell you okay, you're about to feel a lot of pressure, it is not bad. I wish I wouldn't have heard so many horror stories, because in my mind, I don't know, I just had C-sections in my mind being this really dreadful, painful experience. And I just want to get to shed some nice light on the fact that C-sections, or at least in my experience, the C-section was not painful. I didn't feel anything. That even the pressure and the tugging and the pulling was so minimal. I mean, you're just laying there thinking about the fact that you're about to meet your baby for the first time. And honestly, that headspace is so much more powerful than anything that's going on behind the sheet. You're not even thinking about any of that at that point. It's just this switch that goes off in your mind, and all of a sudden anything procedure wise just doesn't matter. You're just so excited about the fact that you're about to meet your baby for the first time. So once they pull the baby out of your stomach, they're going to hold it up to the clear sheet so that you can see your baby. If you did that option, if you decided to have a completely blank sheet, I think you don't see the baby until they have it on the side table. But if you get the option with the clear window, they hold the baby up like Simba from The Lion King. I mean, that's That's what they do. And you get to see your baby for the first time, and it is like, you guys, it's just such a cool experience. If everything is a-okay with the baby, then they will lay it on your chest and let you do skin to skin, which is the best feeling in the world. I'm not gonna cry. Wow. It's just this crazy experience of like, you grew this little tiny human in you for 9 months, and they put it on your chest, and it's like, it's a weird feeling just being like, I know you, and like, you know me, and it's like the most wonderful like feeling in the world. I'm just like So as you're enjoying your skin to skin time with your baby, they're going to be finishing up and sewing the incision and just getting everything in order down there. So they give you about 20 or so minutes to spend holding your baby and taking photos. And then once they're done, they will take the baby, and they only it's in the same room, so you can still see what's going on, but they want to just make sure the baby's okay, weigh it, measure it. They do allow your significant other to be with the baby the whole time and to continue taking photos, so that when you're in recovery, you're able to see those memories as well. Once they know everything is okay with the baby, they will come place the baby back on your chest, and they will wheel you into recovery. And that's it. Like, that's the C-section experience. It's crazy, you guys. Like, it's done. Like, you have your baby. It's so crazy. I can't get over it still. Now, once you are in recovery, it takes a little bit of time for the spinal to wear off. But honestly, you're just laying in your hospital bed, holding your baby. You're not even thinking about the fact that you still can't move your legs. But they do come in and they put compression socks on. They just like want to keep the blood flow moving. And once the spinal wears off, which I want to say it does take a few hours for you to be able to get some sensation back in your legs. But once you do that, really make sure that they keep on top of your medication, because once you start getting feelings back in your legs, you also start getting feeling in where they made the incision, which is not the best feeling in the world. Now, I want to say for me, day 2 was the worst. You know, after the C-section, and once you start getting feeling back in your legs, like, you're still on this adrenaline rush of having this beautiful, like, new person that's in your life, that your headspace is just somewhere different. And then come day 2, the adrenaline just like wears off a little bit, and you start to really realize that you just had a major abdominal surgery. And it's painful, I'm not gonna lie. Like, definitely tell your significant other not to make you laugh, okay? Laughing is the worst. But as long as you stay on top of your medication, and they're gonna really encourage you also to get out of your bed and start walking around, you really do start to feel better. And on that second day, I felt good enough to take a shower. So it's painful and it's a slow process, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So that is it for my experience with the ECV and with the C-section. I really hope it helps out all you first-time mamas who are about to go through this experience. But just know that as long as you and your baby are happy and healthy, everything is going to be okay, all right? If you liked this video, then please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you get notified next week when I upload a new video. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye!